Hey guys, this is Ignatius again, going over the second tutorial here for Starwind modding, um, Morrowind modding, but just specifically using Starwind to do so. In the first video we went over how to make a house, the basic controls, basic hotkeys for the construction set, and some minor stuff with NPCs. We're going to go more in depth with NPCs now. We're going to do some quests, we're going to do some dialogue, and I'm going to try to cover as much as I can with keeping it simple. And then we will do a little bit of scripting, but this video is not meant to teach you how to script. It's going to introduce you to it though. So you'll pull up your construction set, and just like you did before, you're going to click the load button here to load all of your data files. You're going to check your three main files: Blood Moon, Tribunal, and Morrowind. And then you're going to need, again, your Starwind Remastered version 1.15. And you're going to need the patch. That's for the new version 2 update. And then you just need to find the mod that you made. I named mine SW House Test. So this time, you actually already have a file. You didn't have one last time. So, excuse me, whenever you get to this point, you're going to need to make sure that you have your ESP that you made last time, your house mod that you made, and selected, and press set as active file. That means when you save throughout this video, if you're following along or afterwards, whatever you're doing, as you save while you're in the construction set and you have this mod set as the active file, it will save all of the updates under that ESP. So even if you change something in one of these ESMs that you have checked, it's going to save all of the edits in this ESP. So once you have that done, you click OK. And we're going to go through that same process we went through last time. The errors are going to pop up. Again, you can go to your Morrowind INI and you can put yes to all, find yes to all, and just change that to 1. But I don't like that. I like to be able to see if there is a preliminary error that tells me that something is wrong with my mod. So I like to leave them there. Just hold down the enter key, and I'll just scroll all the way through them. And it's going to glitch your object window out again. So you're going to go to View, Object Window, and then pull it back up. So the last time that we were here, we left with our house that we made on Tatooine. So back to practice. If you haven't messed with this for a while, it'd be good to find it again. Get back in the groove of getting in the CS and using the camera and everything. Remember, you're going north on here, so just click the up arrow and the right arrow. I don't think I covered that last time, but you can use the arrow keys to move around. Generally, you're not going to do that if you're up close, though, like we were, because it's just going to move it too far away. So remember, you can select anything on your render viewer, and you can press C or T to bring you straight to it. So this was the house that we made, and we made our interior. What I want to do here is I want to show you how we can, instead of just, if you're already here, instead of going through all these cell views to find your interior that you made, you can double click that door and then select a marker, and it'll bring you right to it. Very convenient, very useful. So we made this NPC last time, and we changed his race into the droid. We took off we went to AI, and we took out the wander package so he wouldn't walk around. Let's just go over all of his stuff real quick. Let's start with the NPCs. So double click your sentry droid, whatever you named him. I think Said you can name him Bob the Droid. If your brother's name is Bob, so if his name's Bob the Droid, click him. Open this up. Um, we went over most of this last time, and really, a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory. Your attributes, your health, you'll know what your stats are. Disposition is how much an NPC likes you. This is by default, so it doesn't matter what your personality is before any modifiers are applied. This is how much he likes you. You can go ahead and set that to 100 because he's your droid, right? So uh, he should definitely like you. Essential means that if this box is checked, it's going to pop up a message saying that an essential character has died and you will not be able to complete the main quest. It's not really useful to us because the message that it provides isn't Morrowind related, so we would never really use that. Corpse Persist makes a corpse never decay, which is useful for an NPC that's, let's say we change his health to 0. This NPC, when we load the cell, is gonna be dead. Um, if Corpse Persist is checked, his body will never disappear unless you dispose of it manually, yourself in game. And then respawn, we went over the last time. That was already checked, and I went ahead and unchecked it because um, I don't want mine to respawn if I decide to kill him. So check that if you want to be able to just beat your droid to death, and then he can respawn. I'm gonna go over. This is really it's useful in Morrowind in certain cases based on the NPC you're trying to make. It's super important in Starwind though. If you decide to set your level of this droid to 12, his stats don't update. I don't know if you can see that, but they're not updating down here. You have to auto-calculate the stats. When you do that, you're going to want to uncheck that. You're going to want to click the first spell, scroll down, shift click, and select all the spells because I have changed all of the magic effects. I have even changed the visual effects that happen when there's magic, including fire damage. So what I did was creatures such as droids or like the droids that crawl on the ground, or your flying droids, or your protocol droids that are actually creatures and not NPCs. They use magic. They don't actually use arrows. So instead of giving them bone arrow animations, we don't need fire magic. Jedi and Sith, they don't breathe fire. So I changed it to blasters. The blaster bolts is the destruction, um, the destruction school's visual effect, and their sound has been changed to blasters. This is going to give them spells that use that. We don't want that. This would work maybe for a droid, but for uh, a Sith, you don't want him casting spells that shoot blaster bolts. It just looks stupid. So it's very important that we do that. And other magic effects have been changed around as well. Um, Eventually, we'll get to that so I can show you how all that works. But for now, just know that you need to get rid of all those spells. And if you're going to give him spells, you got to do that manually. We're not going to go over spells right now. We're just going to try to do some enhancements through quests that allow us to purchase this droid. So he's not going to be here unless we buy him. Purchase the house. The house will be locked. You'll get a key when you buy the house, and then you can go inside of your house because you bought it. And maybe even purchasing furniture and stuff like that to upgrade your house. Pretty standard house mod stuff, but it does contain some scripting. It does contain journal entries, dialogue, all that good stuff. And it's all very basic, and we can go over it in this one video. So the first thing I want to do is I want to give this sentry droid a greeting. Let's make him personable before we worry about the more advanced stuff like buying him and stuff like that. Uh, you're not going to mess with animation. Let's do AI real quick. Very easy. Your AI packages travel, wander, escort, follow, and activate. Wander is pretty much the only one you're going to use here because it's much more efficient and safe, and a lot more. You have a lot more control to do all these other ones through scripting. Fight is how hostile an NPC is. 30 is a base like commoner. 30 is their fight. They're not going to jump into a fight because you attacked a guard. They will fight back though, but they're not going to try to save someone else from you. If you set it to like 50 or 60, then they're going to they're going to protect other NPCs around them. They may even attack you if their disposition is low enough and you steal something. If you set it to 70, they will become hostile at low disposition. If you set it to, I believe, 75 or higher, they're hostile. It might be 80 or higher. From 80 to 100, they are hostile. No matter what, they're pissed and they're going to try to kill you. Um, the only difference between 80 and 100 is their aggro range, right? So at 80, you have to be pretty close to them in order for them to become hostile and attack you. At 100, from a pretty far distance, as soon as you can see them pretty much, uh, they can see you and they're coming for you. Flee works the exact same way. If I put flee at 100, it does not matter about any other modifiers or factors in the situation. If his flee is 100 and I attack him, he is going to run away every time. He's forever. He's just going to run away. Big old wuss is what you're going to make if you do that. 30 is your standard. Unless you want a character to flee, there's not a whole lot of reason to change this from 30. I've only personally ever used it at 30 or 100 because, again, if you want to control what's happening in a situation, like you want to make a character run because something is happening, you're going to do it through scripting anyway. Alarm. If alarm is at 100 and this character is in the room and you steal anything that doesn't belong to you, now everything in this cell, if you remember, belongs to you because we didn't set any ownership on the items. You can't set ownership to the player because no other NPCs can pick up items anyway. So they didn't worry about actually setting ownership to the player. But if it has an ownership at all, then it doesn't belong to you. So if you take it, it's stealing. Uh, Different alarm levels mean different things. Like a very low alarm level, they may only report it if you steal something of theirs. And I don't know the exact numbers because, again, I don't really use that too much either. I would set it to 30 for standard. I would set it to 100 for a guard because I want that guard to respond as fast as possible. Or I want someone, if this alarm is at 100 and I attack somebody, they're going to defend them. So if I set that alarm to 100, then I can create the illusion of a guard in a way of maybe I want a bodyguard, but I don't want to have to script a following script for him to an NPC that's not even going to move in the first place. So instead of worrying about his fight and stuff like that, I can just set his alarm to 100. So he's a bodyguard now. If you attack anybody in the room he's in, he's going to jump in. But he's not a guard, so he's not going to try to arrest you or anything like that. But this is your own sentry droid. Um, he should do whatever the hell you tell him to do. So just like any other companion, you don't want them telling on you and you getting a bounty because they're traveling with you as a companion or a follower and you stole something. So we're going to set that to 0. Hello is how likely they are to talk to you. Exact same concept as the rest of them. Um, I don't change this at all because if I'm going to change this, I'll do it through scripting. More control and more advanced control. So I would never change that unless you don't want the NPC to talk. So if this NPC is hostile and at short range he's going to attack me, I don't want the chance of me with my super speed because I cheated and I set my speed to 1,000 to be able to run up to him real quick and talk to him. So I'm going to set his hello to 0. Again, this is our guy, so we do want to be able to talk to him. So you can just set it to 30. So again, we have 30. He is only going to defend himself. He's really not going to flee. He's not going to tell on you. and he'll tell you hi if you talk to him. So we're going to save that. This dialog button right here is only going to really be useful to you for the most part if you are just trying to find something that NPC says. We can get to where we want without it, um, but unless he has dialogue and we're looking to see exactly what he says, then this is only going to allow us to see what he says and not edit anything without some extra steps, and it's a waste of time. So unless you're looking for something specific, then that button's going to be useless to you. We did edit some stuff here, so go ahead and click save. And we're going to give him dialogue. So remember, this is the dialogue editor right here, this window, the chat bubble. So click that, and it's going to load your dialogue. We have a lot to go over here. Dialogue is very complicated in the Morrowind construction set. There's a lot that goes on here. This is where you create quests, this is where you create journal indexes, and all of your variables that have to do with that. Most of you probably know that Morrowind is a topic-based dialogue system. You simply learn information based on these topics, right? So anything in here, if you see these words spoken in the game, your character is going to unlock these topics. Then if a character knows about them, you can talk to them about it. So in this situation right here, the only character that's going to do anything about a few credits is this specific NPC right here. Felino Trouble can't accompany you, right? So mostly it's just used for NPCs that are doing quests and things of that like, or related to a quest, like they're going to give you some kind of information. Let's just click around and see if we can find one that's a little more generic. Hmm. Uh, Balmora. Okay. So let's go over all of this information. So up here, these are all of your entries. What this entry is the dialogue itself and how it responds in this specific instance in the game. So if I click this bottom one, this character is going to say Balmora is a large town in the south of the West Gash region, bordering on the Bitter Coast region to the west, the Ashlands region to the north, and the Ascadian Isles region to the south. That's what the NPC is going to say to you. The first box here in the conditions, these conditions have to be met. That's what a condition is, right? This condition has to be met in order for this to happen. So if your character, okay, the ID. This is the NPC ID. We went over IDs and how all that works, what they are in the last video. You can now select the ID of NPCs that you make in here, and they'll make them say this. So right now it's blank. So it doesn't look for a specific ID. But if I selected Abard the Wild, then only Abard the Wild is going to say this. We're not here to edit this though, so we're going to put it back the way that we got it. Race. The race of a creature, you can set it to, instead of a specific ID, every NPC that uses this race is going to say this. Scout, every NPC that uses this class, in this case, is going to say this. So you can do the same with their faction, their rank on that faction, their cell that they're in, the PC's faction, the player character, so the faction that the player is in, and the rank that he is. So in this specific instance, this is only said if the NPC is a scout and he is in the Balmora cell. So we're going to go even more in depth now, just on this one. towns are a big place, so let's say we select Tatooine as the cell here. Well, if you look here, there's a lot going on in Tatooine. You can be in the Tatooine Arena, Tatooine Cantina, the Tatooine Durelium Mine. That comma does a lot more than just organize things in the game for you and make it where you can see, oh, I'm going into this place and I'm in Balmora. When you select this, Balmora, or if I selected Tatooine here, it's going to encompass everything in Tatooine and then everything with Tatooine, comma, space. So all of these would be affected just by selecting the main cell, the parent cell in this box. So you can also do sex, of course. So if the character is a female or the character is a male, then they will say this. Disposition. If right now it's at 0, so it doesn't matter what their disposition is. But if I set it to 80, then this character is only going to say this now if their disposition is also 80 or higher. So then you have to make the character like you before they'll give you the information they want. Functions and variables. We're going to get a little more into this part here pretty soon. You're going to actually use that very soon, as well as the results. The results is basically scripting. So what happens in the results is once all these conditions and functions and variables are met, and it allows this to happen, it posts this in the dialog window for the player to read. But it also does all this behind the scenes. This is the scripting that happens behind that dialogue. Some of this gets posted to the dialog window, such as if you give the player an item, it'll say, blaster rifle added to your inventory, or journal updated if you update the journal. But most of it happens behind the scenes, and the player doesn't actually know it's ever happening. And you don't want them to, because immersion, you want things to just happen as the quest goes along, and you want it to feel good. You don't want to say unlock this door and disable this NPC and revive this NPC, move this NPC to this cell. You don't want it to say all that. So it's a good thing that those things are hidden. Voices.
No!
Jesus Christ, that scared me. Voices for voice acting. In Starwind, I don't do it that way because all of my voice acting is not done outside of the dialogue window. It's all done inside of the dialogue window. And Morrowind wasn't designed for that, so we don't use that. I do it through scripting. I'm probably not going to show you all that. If you get to that point and you have a question, you want that done, just ask me on the Discord. But it's a pain in the ass. Very, very big pain in the ass. One of my least favorite things to do. It has a very high reward in the end because your NPC is voice acted, but it's not something I want to go over in this video. Greetings. So greetings have multiple different categories. In Morrowind, you would actually be using them for a lot of different things. Since this is really just for Starwind, I'm not going to go over all of them. They're used for different things like main quest lines, and this one is used for if the player is a vampire, then this is what they say. But this is just for it being organized for the developers in their own little way. If I want somebody to say something to a vampire, I can put it in any one of these that I want. I use greeting 7 for all of mine. You can see here SW in all of my IDs. Tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of dialogue. I mean, you're talking all the dialogue in this category. Everything from here up is Starwind. I just use this one. It puts it all in one place. I don't need it everywhere else. I would just get confused hunting everything down So I like to keep it all in one place. So what we're going to do is we are going to add dialogue to this guy right here. And we named him, it doesn't matter what we named him, we gave him the ID. Remember that the name of the NPC is completely different from the ID. The ID is for development use. The name is just what the player sees. You'll never use this name in the scripting. As far as behind the scenes development stuff goes, this name no longer matters. You just set it one time, the player can see it, that's all that matters. But SW House Butler, this is very important. So I'm going to select this top one. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to copy it to create a new one. In Morrowind, and this is a little confusing, but this is simply the way it works and there's nothing I can do about it. It reads from the top down. So when it's reading down this list, what it does is it comes around and it checks, and it goes from this one that I'm selected, and it just keeps going down the list until it finds the first one that all the conditions are met. So you want to make sure pretty much that there's always a condition on it, on the dialogue itself. Otherwise, you know, you're going to have problems where they're overlapping and they're happening at the wrong time. The only time that you really can't do that is just the standard greeting, right? But you will use greetings in quest making. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get rid of all this bullshit. Get rid of all of it. And then we're going to click the ID and we're going to find SW House Butler. I'm going to type it SW_House Butler right there. I'm going to click it. Now whatever I do in this instance of this specific dialogue, our new sentry droid in our house is going to say it. So I'm going to put in here, hi, I'm sentry droid and I'm your butler. You can say whatever you want, right? You can put whatever you want. Greeting, colon. What can I do for you, master? You know, you can put whatever you want in there. So now there's no other conditions to be met. When you talk to him, it finds him and it literally copies and pastes this into the game. Boom, that's what he's going to say. So now if I'm going to do anything with him, you know, I just have, in the greetings, I just have to make sure that it's above this so I can copy it, and boom, I'll have another one, right? So now this one would happen before this one. So if I changed anything here, then this is what it would do. So when I make new dialogues for this guy in the greetings that are based on quests in the future, I want to make sure they're above this because they're going to have conditions. They're going to have to if they're related to a quest, and I'll show you very soon why. They're going to have conditions. So if this is before it and it has no conditions, this will never get played. Okay? Hope that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and delete that because we're not going to need that. But now he has a greeting. He'll talk to you when you come in. What we're going to do now is we're going to do some preliminary action to no, I'll tell you what we're going to do first. We're going to open our journal here. I do all this on pen and paper usually, but for y'all's sake right now, we're going to pull this up here. Just follow along and trust me. 5. Carl Tarot. Now let's see. I was told when I bought my house that, you know what? God damn it. Yeah, we're going to do it this way. I was told when I bought my house that Carl Taro, that's the droid shop owner on Tatooine, can sell me a sentry droid for my home. Okay? 10. I've spoken to Carl Taro and have bought the sentry droid for 100 credits. Okay? Really, really easy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back over here. We're going to go over to Journal. And this is exactly what it sounds like. This is the player journal. When you press J in the game and it shows your journal, this is what it is behind the scenes. This is your journal. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, we're going to create new, and we're going to type SW house droid. Okay, it cannot be house butler because that ID already exists. So it's going to be SW house droid. Click enter. We now have a new journal entry. The ID is SW underscore house droid. The player will never see that. That's just for development purposes. So let's go over here. This is our journal. Let's put our ID here, SW house droid. And then we're going to give it a quest name. We're going to name it a butler for my home. Okay. Then we're going to come back over here. We're going to right click in info and responses. This box right here are the journal entries inside of this journal that the player will see. So this is a database, is what it is. This is a folder that contains all of the information for your journal, including the quest name, everything. It's a folder that contains all of this journal's information. So we're going to create new, a butler for my home. Then we're going to press quest name. So now, when this journal entry, when the first journal entry happens, no matter what it is, which one it is, how it happened, why it happened, doesn't matter. If a journal entry happens related to this folder, this ID, then it's going to put this quest in your journal. Create a new one. Okay, got a new one right there. Go over to your journal, copy this, paste it here. So when we activate this right here, this is going to paste in your journal. It's going to say, a butler for my home. I was told when I bought my house that Carl Taro can sell me a sentry droid for my home. Now, what is this 5? And what is this 10? Right here. The index. The index is a number value, an integer value, that this specific page in this journal is assigned to. So what's going to happen is you'll see it very soon. We're going to call in the scripting, we're going to call this ID, and if we say 5, if we say in any way, shape, or form this ID 5, it's going to know it equals to this. It's going to know that it's not a quest name. It's going to know that the quest is not finished and that the quest does not restart. If you have any questions over these 3, let me know. Quest name, the quest is finished, the quest restarts. Okay, so let's create another one. Give this one a journal index of not 21, 10. Come over here, paste this. Leave this notepad up. So normally I put all this on paper in front of me because I'm going to use this, even though it's so simple, I'm going to use this later and I'm going to want to look at it to make sure that I don't make any mistakes. I have quests that this goes up to 250. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way to 250. You really need to keep track of your journal index values and what they actually mean because you're going to use that way too much. And if you don't have a reference, you're going to get so lost. You're going to have to be going back and forth through topics and journals, and it doesn't bring you back exactly where you were before. You got to keep finding the topic in the journal over and over every time you switch back and forth. Just make your journal, lay it out, then make your journal, then you're done with it, right? So I spoke to him and I bought the Sentry droid. We did finish this quest. We bought the droid. Oh, a butler for my home. Boom. This is done. I should never have to touch this again because I have my reference, right? So I'm done with this. So what I'm going to do now is, yeah, I did a little bit of this stuff backwards. We're actually not ready to do that yet, but that's okay because the work is not going anywhere. So let's make a new journal entry. Let's make sure I don't already have one for it. No, I don't. So let's right click, click new, SW, buy a house. Okay. This is case sensitive. Make sure that all this is spelled correctly on all ends of everything you do. These IDs are very case sensitive. You can actually crash a game by calling an incorrect ID that doesn't exist. Or you can cause other problems if you're calling the wrong one. So make sure it's case sensitive. So let's name this quest My Own Home. Okay? Pretty simple. 5. I was told at the Tatooine Zerka office that I could buy a house. I should speak to the desk attendant again if I'm interested. Okay. 10. I have bought my own home on Tatooine for 100 credits. And we're just going to keep using 100 credits because we're keeping it simple, right? So for right now, that's good. That's really all we need right now. So we're going to go in here, My Own Home, quest name. Next. This is going to have an index of 5. Go ahead, copy, paste. This is going to have an index of 10. I like to use intervals of 5. They don't have to be intervals of 5. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chronologically all the way up. But what if you want to add something? You can't go backwards. You can't go from 10 to 5. So you want to go from 5 somewhere in between 5 and 10. So you may want to add a 7 in there. And then 10, you may want to add 12. 15, you may want to add 17. So I like to go in intervals of 5. I learned that from an article that taught dialogue I read a long time ago. And I'm going to find that and I'm going to put it in the description of this video when I upload it, because it is super useful information. It's a great tutorial. Some people just prefer to learn, um, by watching and listening. Plus, this is specifically for Starwind as well. So we have these two journals made. Okay. So what did we just say in that journal? You know what? No, it's okay. Let's do this first. Let's go to the Tatooine Zerka office. So it's right here. Tatooine Zerka office. Double click it. Let's go in here. This is the guy we're talking about right here. SW_Zerka office guy. This is the desk attendant that we're referring to. So while we have it, go ahead in here. You know what? I do this. I'm so used to doing this on paper that I'm messing my formatting up. Gotta have proper formatting if you're going to be organized and use all this efficiently. So we're going to tab in underneath this SW Zerka office guy. Okay? Because that's the ID that we're using for this guy right here. So go back to your dialog window, and the same concept applies for creating topics as it does with journals. You just right click, you press new, and it creates it. But before you do that, if you just type in buy, buying a house is already a topic here for Zerka Office Guy, because I meant to do this. I started doing this and I forgot about it, and I never finished it. So we're going to finish it now. For those of you who want your own house, you can get one. So all of this is obsolete. We're not going to use any of this nonsense that I have in here. Take it out. Take out the voice acting. This is the nonsense that you have to go through to get the voice acting done without any issues, by the way. We're not going to do that. So what we have now is we have an empty dialog without any results, any functions or conditions, and we have the right ID, right? SW_Zerka office guy. That's the one right here that we need. I hope I'm making sense so far. What we're going to do here is we're going to say, I was told at the Tatooine Zerka office I could buy a house for 100 credits, right? So if you are interested, there is a nice little hut just outside of the walls for sale for 100 credits. So at this moment, there's no conditions. So no matter what, he's going to say this. What if we already bought the house? We don't want him to say this again. We don't want him to keep trying to sell us something that we already bought. I'm not trying to just give this guy all my credits over and over and over again for nothing. So now we're going to use functions and variables. And functions allow you to do things like check their statistics, their alarm. Remember, alarm tells you whether they're going to tell on you or not. Whether they are alarmed at the moment. Did they just catch you? Did you attack them? Did you create a choice? What was that choice equal to? Okay, things of that nature. We'll go over choices here in a little while as well. Or I'm sorry, not in a little while, but right now. In this case, what we're using is journal. We are using the journal SW buy a house. Right? I just typed that in there, by the way. You can just type it if you want, or you can scroll down and find SW_buy buy a house. That's a journal that we created for buying a house. What do we want this equal to? Does it matter what it's equal to? Does it matter if it's 5 or if it's 7 or 1 or if it's negative 300? It absolutely matters. We want this to equal 0. That means that if this journal is not even, this has never been recorded in your journal before, this is what he's going to say. And I may not explain this too well here in a moment. I hope I explain it well enough. If you have any questions, please ask. What we're going to do now is we're going to come down here and we're going to do some basic scripting. We're going to type in journal SW buy a house 5 with spaces in between. So it's the exact same setup as this, okay? Without any equal sign, any type of result character. Journal space the ID space the value. This isn't asking any information. It's not a condition. It's a result. This is an if. All this right here is just if. If all this is true, then do this. What we just did was, if you talk to this NPC about buying a house, literally, because that's our topic, buying a house, then if the journal has never appeared, it's still 0, you've never talked to him about it before, it's going to say this, and it's going to set your journal to 5. So now he's going to say, yeah, I'll sell it to you for 100 credits. And it's going to post this in your journal. So it says I should speak to him again if I'm interested, okay? Why did we do that instead of just proceeding? Because what we're going to do is we're going to add a choice to let the player speak. We're going to type choice space, and we're going to start our quotations. I would love to buy that little hut. Okay? End your quotation, press space, 1. This, now, what this is going to do is it's going to allow the player to say this inside of the quotations. And that choice is going to equal to a value of 1. Let's give him a second choice. Press space, start a new quotation. No, I don't want to purchase a home in this shithole. End your quotation. Press space, 2. This new choice, this new dialogue that the player is allowed to say, has a value of 2. So no matter which one you pick, if you decide to tell him to fuck off and you leave, the game knows that you've talked to him about him before. Your character knows that he can buy a house here. You can be reminded in a later time in your journal that you can buy a house here, if you're not ready to do that. Or maybe you didn't have enough money to do that, so you told him no. So now we're going to right click this and copy it. What we want to do now is we want to respond to those choices. Get rid of all that. Where it says journal here, we're now going to choose function. And the variable of this function is going to be choice, because the player is currently making a choice. We're going to start with the easy one, which was 2. Pretty standard way I do it, the last choice is always the no, the fuck off choice, because it's the easiest. So we just told this guy that his town sucks and we don't want any house in his town. So he's going to tell us, well, then you need to catch the next freighter out of here. So do we want him? He's telling you to fuck off now. But you can just keep talking to him and asking questions. We don't want that because he's not very happy right now because of what you just said to him. So in the result box down here, we're going to type goodbye. And this is going to force the character to not talk to him anymore. The only thing the character is going to be able to do is press this button that's going to appear that says goodbye, and it's going to close the dialog window. It's not going to let him talk anymore. He can re-enter conversation with that NPC again and go and restart the conversation and buy the house still. But in that one conversation they had, this NPC's done. He's had enough. He's not going to talk to you. So, excuse me, that goodbye result right there is going to make that happen for you. Let's go ahead and copy that one, and we're going to change the choice to 1. So you can go back down here and look. I would love to buy that hut is equal to 1. So when we say 1, we have a few things to think about. Does the player have enough money to buy this house? Item. We're going to add a new function, an additional one to the choice that is equal to 1. Item. The ID for money in Morrowind is gold_001. If the player does not have the item gold001 greater than equal to 100, you got to make sure to put greater than equal to, because if you only put equals to 100, then it's only going to work if the player has exactly 100 gold in his inventory. So you got to put greater than equal to 100, because the player likely isn't going to be trying to buy a house for 100 credits if he only has exactly 100 credits in his inventory. He probably has more than that. And if you know Starwind, you know that if he's in this building, he probably has more than 100 credits because he's done some quests at this point. So we need to change what the NPC says. That's great. Here's your key. Enjoy your new home. So, we forgot to make the key. So we're going to... These don't update in this window unless they're reloaded after the item is made. So we're actually going to stop right there. We're going to press OK. We're going to do Misc items. We're going to create our first Misc item. So click Misc item and scroll down to any key. You can go down to SW key if you want. They're just keys. I didn't make like key cards or anything like that. I didn't think it was necessary. They're keys. Name it SW my house key. Okay? And then my house key. Remember to save this ID. Gotta keep your references right here. So I've bought the house, I gain that key, right? Save it. Remember that when you are saving an item, not to press no for a new reference, for a new ID, not to press no, because it's going to overwrite whatever you double click to use, you know? You want to create a completely new object. So now let's go back to the dialog window. We're going to go back to buying a house and go back to where we were. That's great. Here's your key. Enjoy your new home. Now I'm going to show you how to add items to the player's inventory and how to take items away from the player. So in this result, we're going to type player player hyphen greater than symbol. We're going to create an arrow pointing away from the player. When you're scripting, this is the ID that you're referring to. You're saying this ID is going to do this. Okay, hope that makes sense. If I did like SW Zerka office guy dash greater than, then it's going to happen for him instead of you. So the player is just the ID for the player. Player, make your little arrow, add item, comma, space, SW underscore gold 001, comma, or I'm sorry, we're adding the item. We're not going to give the player 100 gold. We're giving him this ID. We're giving him this key. Player add item, this key, comma, space, 1. So let's go over that. Player, add the item's ID, how many of the item you want to give him. Enter. Player, make your arrow, remove item, comma, space, gold underscore 001, comma, space, 100. So we gave the player the key and we took the gold that it cost for the player to buy the key. I suppose you could just add the key to their inventory or their so that they can sell it, you know, and then just put it in the dialogue if you wanted. But this is more immersive this way than just saying, hey, what's this fucking key in your shop? You know, instead of him, he's literally saying, hey, are you here to buy a house? Much better. So now we're going to copy that because what we haven't addressed yet is if the player doesn't have enough gold. So what we're going to do, item gold 001 is less than 100 if the player does not have enough gold. Get rid of those results because you don't want to give the player the key. And then we're going to change this. Well, come back when you can afford it. Okay, simple as that. So now the player can learn about buying a house. Then he can attempt to buy the house or tell them to fuck off. If he has enough money, he can buy it. If he doesn't have enough money, he can't buy it. So we're going to create one more. Oh, I'm sorry. Go back to that's great, here's your key, where the player bought the house. Journal, SW, what's our buy a house? SW, buy a house, 10. We want to update the journal. You bought the house, you have the key, you're ready to go to your new home. The quest is finished. So now we're going to go back up here. We're going to get rid of this item function and we're going to change this journal entry, SW buy a house is equal to 10. So what this is going to do is it's going to make sure that none of these can happen again, because if these happen, right, we've covered all of our possible bugs here. If you don't want it, then you say you don't want it. If you do want it, then you can buy it. What did I do here? Did I get rid of? I thought I copied that. Huh. Okay. Just go ahead and copy this again. Get rid of that. Less than. Make sure if you have less than 100 gold, well then come back when you can afford it. Huh. I'm sorry. It is 3 o'clock in the morning. I thought I copied that, but that's alright. So we fix that, right? And then our journal is now equal to 10. How are you enjoying your new home? So now, no matter what stage of the quest we're at, he's going to say something, and it's going to prevent him from it all happening over again once you've already bought the house. You can now properly buy a house in Tatooine as intended from this NPC. And I'm not going to fix that in the next version because if you're following this tutorial, then it's fixed for you and you have the house that you want anyway instead of the house that I would make for you. Let's go back to our house. Okay. Go back to your house, Tatooine, your name, house. And we really need to go outside, but instead of traversing through the entire desert, we're going to do what we did in the beginning. We're going to go inside of our house, and we're going to go through the opposite way now. Select a marker by double-clicking the door, and now we're outside. What we're going to do now is we're going to double-click the door on the outside. We're going to press locked, and we're going to give it a lock level of 100, the most difficult level of locks for a door in Morrowind. And we're not going to add any traps to it because that's ridiculous. We're going to add a key though. We're going to add SW, what is our key name? SW my house key. SW my house key. So now this door is going to be locked. From the beginning of the game, it's always locked. Unless you have enough security to unlock that door yourself, then you got to buy the house. Let's go ahead, because we're editing. You don't have to do this. You can click cancel. When it comes to locking and keys and ownership and things like that, when it comes to doors specifically, I like to give the door a new ID just in case. We're going to name it my house door. Save it, create a new ID. Now it's locked. You can do the quest, you can get the key, you can go inside of your house. Let's see here. Where are we at in this video? At 1 hour and 2 minutes. I think we can pretty quickly wrap up this last little bit from this other journal here, now that I've explained most of it and we've gone through it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back into our house. And we're going to look at our droid here. So our droid, House Butler, let's make it to where you have to buy this guy. He's not just going to be in there when you buy the house. So let us add, I'm going to teach you about books too real quick. Book. You're going to want to press SW and use these books because they're going to look like data pads if they're existing Starwind ones, right? So just click one and drag it over to your desk and just set it down on your desk, your table. Double click it, give it a new ID, my dadgummit, my house datapad, house datapad, right? Give it a little name. All of this syntax you see here, keep all that syntax intact. Don't worry about what it does, just leave it there or it's going to look wrong in game. We're going to give this, every datapad in Starwind teaches you a skill. Pick your favorite skill, I guess. What would we get for a house, huh? Maybe mercantile, right? Because we bought a house, so we're going to learn some mercantile from it. Now that, let's see, let's put own a home. Now we could have done this more in depth through the dialogue over there, but we don't want to make it too complicated right now. We're still learning, and we're trying to learn as many different aspects as we can. So we're going to make a book. Own a home. Visit Carl Taro's droid shop to buy your own sentry droid for your home. Okay? We're not going to worry about that doing anything to our journal or anything. The player should be able to figure that out without a journal update. I think that would be a little ridiculous. They're smart enough to figure that out. If they made it here, they've been in Carl Terrell's droid shop. So we're going to create a script. So we're going to use the script editor. And we're going to create a new script. I'm going to open this box some. Every script begins and ends. Begin, end. I made 3 breaks. 3 line breaks in between these. Okay? I would go ahead and do that. Begin SW. So begin a script and the ID of the script. You're creating the ID right now. So SW my house script 1. Short. Do once. Because we only want to do this one time. If do once is equal to 0. And if. I'm not going to go over too much what the formatting and all of that is, what an if and if sequence is, and the different kind of sequences. I'm not going to go over variables like shorts too much right now. We will do a full video just on scripting, but for right now, just follow along. And if you understand some basic programming, then you'll understand what I'm doing here. You may not understand the exact syntax, but you'll understand what I'm doing for the most part. And those of you who don't, you'll learn in the next video. If do once is equal to 0, we're going to take this ID. You can double click and copy paste it. SW house butler dash greater than and create an arrow, disable. What that does is makes that NPC disappear. It's hidden from the game. He still exists in the game, in the code. He exists, but he's hidden from the player. He can't be hit. He can't be talked to. He's not really there. It just saves all of his information and takes him out of the game. We can enable him at a later time, and it will put him right there in that exact same spot. So we're going to disable him, but in order to keep the game from crashing, because we're just doing it endlessly, because do once is equal to 1 and hasn't changed, it will just every frame, 120 frames per second. It's going to do this 120 times per second. It's going to crash your game. Set do once to 1. So now once you do it one time, it's going to go through this sequence. Boom, boom. If do once is equal to 0, set house butler disable. Set do once to 1, end if, end. Go back around, begin, short do once, if do once is equal to nothing. It's not going to do anything because there's nothing left for it to do. We're going to save that. We're going to double click our droid and we're going to put SW my house script 1. And see, I already found a bug. I made a mistake. Go ahead and save it. You put the new script on that NPC. Open your scripts back up and find it. SW my house script. Double click it. You have to put this in all the scripts for Starwind NPCs so that they don't talk about Morrowind topics like Soltheim. Short space, no lore. And we'll go over that more when we do the actual scripting video. This is just a requests and dialogue, the basics of them. But you got to put that in there. Save it. It's good. You don't have to do anything else with him. He's going to be disabled whenever whenever you enter that cell. And currently there's no way for him to be enabled. So let's go to Tatooine, Carl Taro's Droid Shop. And remember to ignore those animation group errors. They're just not needed in Open Morrowind, so there's no reason to waste time to update all of that nonsense. It would take quite a bit of time. So Carl Taro, this guy right here is who we are working with now. He is going to sell you that droid. And we're going to get just a tad bit more complicated with the dialogue now. So dialogue. In this instance, you're going to double click him and you're going to press that dialogue button. You are going to go over to greetings and greetings 7 and find his greeting. Now, you can edit what is in this instance, but you cannot create new ones while the dialogue topics are filtered. See down here in the bottom left, it's filtered to SW Carl Taro because we double clicked him and we went into his dialogue. So as long as that's filtered, we can't add new instances, but what we can do is edit the instances that are here. So we are going to say, come on in and get out of the sand. Welcome to Carl Taro's Droid Shop. Right now, I've got a protocol droid for sale, useful for general purposes as well as repurposed by yours truly for combat. I also have a cleaning droid for sale, not useful to an adventurer like yourself, but it's something nice to have. So let's go ahead and take cleaning droid, right? Copy that. Go over to topics. Cleaning droid. It's not in here. It's not used. We could have added and Sentry Droid and put it in there, but this works pretty well for us because we're going to create a new topic. We're going to paste that in there, Cleaning Droid, because he may be a Sentry Droid, but he's just a little butler, right? So we're going to add the topic in here. Yes, I have a cleaning droid for sale. It is a repurposed Sentry Droid that I got off of some Jawas. Okay, so he has a fucking protocol droid that he repurposed. He reprogrammed for combat. And now he's got a damn sentry droid that he repurposed to basically be a protocol droid. It's just the way it is. This is the way it turned out. This was not planned. Protocol droids were made before sentry droids. So this is just the way it goes. For this specific NPC. But, okay, so yes, I have a cleaning droid for sale, right? We want to select his ID, so SW Carl Taro. Now it only happens for him. What we also want to do is make sure that we do this if SW House Droid is equal to 0, because we're going to be using this journal, SW House Droid, which is the first journal entry that we made, the first one that had to pertain to that droid. So we have that here now. We have SW House Droid was the ID for that quest, and then we have SW Butler. Or was it Droid Butler? I don't remember. We're gonna need to know that. So it's okay. We can just go over to NPC and we can type it in SW House Butler. Yeah, it's SW House Butler. See, we should have saved that reference. We would have saved time. We wouldn't have had to go look that up. I'm really used to doing stuff like that, so I was able to do it really quickly. But that could have taken somebody a long time because we didn't put our reference in there. Very important. So, if the house droid is equal to 0, yes, I have a cleaning droid for sale. What did we not do here that we did in the other one is no, we did it right. Okay, never mind, I'm sorry. Alright, so we want to make that equal to 5. I was told when Carl Taro, he'd sell me a Sentry droid, right? So we want to type in journal SW house droid 5. So it updates our journal so that we know about it now. Let's add our choices. Choice. A Sentry droid. That sounds great. 1. Quotation. No thanks. I don't need any droids in my company. Okay. 2. Make sure to put that 2 in there. Let's go ahead and add on this dialogue. I'll sell it for 100 credits. We are missing one thing here. Can you spot it? Okay. If we haven't accepted this quest, then we get this journal entry. But do we want the player to be able to buy this droid for their house that they don't even fucking own yet and they may not even know about? No. So we want to make sure that this journal or this specific dialogue sequence also includes SW buy house being completed. So journal SW buy a house needs to equal to 10 as well. So we haven't started buy a droid, we have finished buy a house. Now he'll talk to us about it. He wouldn't talk to us about it beforehand. All right. Copy. So let's go to function choice is equal to 2. The rest of it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter what your journal entries are, because this is requiring that the function of a choice that you made was equal to 2, which can't happen unless the first one happens. The first one can't happen unless you've completed the buy a house. So this one's covered. It all works off of each other. You can keep the other journal entries. It's not going to really hurt anything. You would have to make sure that the buy a droid one is now equal to 5 instead of 0. So it's more to keep up with when it's not necessary because we've already covered our tracks on that before. So we told him, no, we don't want any droids. Well, then you're in the wrong shop, buddy. All I sell is droids. Okay, let's go ahead and copy that. And then we're going to change it equal to 1. Here you go. Your own Sentry droid. I'll have him head over to your house now. We have to make sure that the player can afford it. So item gold 001 is greater than equal to 100. Remember, we got to take the gold away from the player now. So player, remove item, comma, 100, or I'm sorry, gold underscore 001, 100. Now, with syntax and scripting, case sensitive doesn't necessarily mean capitalization. You don't have to have all the same capitalization with your syntax. You just have to have it. I mean, it's got to be the right characters, right? It's got to be the right word. Even if it's not a real word, it's got to be the right word, the one that you made up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the next line. We're going to put a break in that. And we're going to take SW House Butler, which is the ID for our droid that we made. We're going to put it in here. We're going to make our arrow, and we're going to put enable. So he took your gold. He sent the droid to your house. The droid is now enabled, so when you go into your house now, the droid will be there. He doesn't do anything for you, at least not yet. Maybe we'll do more in the next video to cover more different dialogue after I've had some thought and am not falling asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. But he'll be enabled now. So that's all done. We need to make sure that we set the journal. What is the journal called? SW house droid. SW house droid is now equal to 10. You've bought the droid, you've finished the quest. You don't want him to keep taking your money. Make sure you change your journal entries as you go about doing this stuff. Then copy that instance, get rid of all the results, make sure you put less than, and sorry, but you can't afford a sentry droid. Okay, so now if you can't afford it, we're covered. Then we want to make sure, no matter what, we're going to put this at the top because it's going to read the top first. No matter what, SW house droid is equal to 10. He's going to say, I hope you're enjoying that sentry droid I sold you. Okay, so now he's not going to, no matter what, you finish the quest, right? You finish the quest. If you haven't finished the quest, then your journal is equal to 5. Your journal is equal to 5. I found a bug. Son of a bitch. Okay, with all that's done, we just found a bug just now. We set our journal to 5 on this one. Okay. We need to go ahead and copy this, and we need to make sure that we take into consideration that the journal could be 5 because they could have said no. I hope that makes sense. We can even mess with the dialogue here to make it a little more clearer, right? So in the first one, when the first time he said it, he changed the journal to 5 because the player knows about this transaction now. Now, if it's equal to 5, have you rethought my droid offer? Okay, I'll sell for 100 credits, and then it restarts the process of yes, no. And then once it equals 10, it's over because you said yes and you could afford it. Let's go over to our other topic, which was buying a house, and do the same thing. So we are going to take this first one if you're interested, and we're going to change this to 5. We're going to take out the spot where we changed it to 5 down here because we don't need it anymore. Have you reconsidered buying a home in Sand River? It's just 100 credits. Okay, so now we cover that one too. So our journals are done. We should be able to buy our house and buy our droid for 200 credits. All this should be done. You can take that piece of paper that you had, crumble it up, throw it in the box that you keep next to your desk that's full of other pieces of paper because we've made 1,000 quests and we're trying to fill that box up with crumbled pieces of paper, right? And then I'm going to press OK. I'm going to press save. We're going to save our mod, and let's test it out, see if we had any bugs. We might have had bugs. It's very late, and I don't work the best this late at night. Now, when you've edited NPCs, you have edited an existing NPC. More than likely, the player will have to create a new character. So if you load an existing save, do not assume that because it's not working, that there's a bug. It could be that you have went inside of the cell before. Maybe on this save, I've been inside of Carl Terrell's droid shop. Well, it loaded that NPC and all of his information before we updated it, so it still has the old information. So it doesn't have that new information. He's not going to have it. He's not going to be able to talk about it. It's not going to exist. So you would have. That's why you would have to create a new save when there are things like updates or mods that edit existing NPCs, and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and unlock the door here because we haven't got a hunting license yet, and we can't just leave the city is all we want. And it's not here. That may have been my fault. Make sure you select it in your data files. SW House does. It wasn't selected in my data files. That's my bad. So let's go ahead and go outside. Our house is there now. It should be locked. It's locked. Let's go ahead and save real quick. And we're going to click this. We're going to unlock it. And let's see if our droid's there. Our droid is not there. And our new data pad is there, which taught us a little skill and told us go to Carl Darrow's droid shop. Right? So let's go ahead and reload that save because we want to know if we can unlock this by buying it. We don't have any credits. Player, add item, cheat codes. Cheat codes, there's no cheat codes in Morrowind. It's the same thing as the scripting language. It's developer. It's a developer console. So player add item, gold 001, 5,000. Let's give ourselves 5,000 credits. And we're gonna unlock the Zerka office so we can talk to our guy here. And looking for a job information, house purchase applications. Well, why the fuck isn't he talking about buying a house? So let's go back to him. This may have been a corrupt save bug. Dialog. Greetings. 7. He should say, Tatooine Zerka office, what can I help you with? Looking for a job, buying a house. Bounties or something else. Does he have a different greeting? He does have a different greeting. Look at that. So this greeting, function talk to PC, is equal to 0. So in this specific instance, if the first time you've ever talked to him, he'll say this instead. So let's go ahead and retest that. It might not be a bug. You might just have to talk to him more than once in our life before he's willing to sell us a house in his town. There it is. Okay, so function talk to PC is now no longer equal to 1. I mean, no longer equal to 0, so now he's playing the other one. Most NPCs don't have that. I don't know why I did that. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm not really going to look into it right now because we could go on for 15-20 minutes me trying to figure out why I did that. We're just going to try to buy this house. No, I don't want to buy the house.
What's this
well, you can
regarding?
catch the next freighter out of here, and he told me to fuck off, right? See that? It just says goodbye, and it forces me out of it. And when it does say goodbye, it won't let me click any of these topics over here. So buying a house, have you considered buying a home? Reconsidered, right? So we learned about it. Now he's asking us if we've reconsidered. I would love to buy that. We'll come back when you can afford it. We got to give ourselves the money. Buying a house. So hey, that worked, right? We didn't have money. They didn't give it to us. That's great. Here's your key. Enjoy your new home. Can I buy it again? How are you enjoying your new home? See, all of our checks worked. All of our checks worked. So let's go back to our house. My house key used to open lock. Boom. So now we're in our house. Can we buy our droid? Also have a cleaning droid for sale. Yes, I have a cleaning droid for sale. It's a repurposed sentry droid. I'll sell it for 100 credits. No thanks.
What's this regarding?
Let's throw our money down real quick. Let's ask him again. Have you rethought? Okay, so that worked. That check worked. He's asking us in a different way now because we've already learned about it. Sorry, but you can't afford that droid. Here you go, your own sentry droid. I'll have him head over to the house now. And our journal update should be here now. I was told by the Tatooine Zerg I could buy a house. I have bought my own home. I was told I can buy a sentry droid. I have spoken to Carl Taro, and I have bought the sentry droid. And there he is. Greeting. What can I do for you, Master?
Query. How is it that I can help you?
Alright, look at that. That's a good droid right there. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this this video. We will go over more in the next one. It took a lot longer than I thought to get to where we are now. But we'll go over more. I hope this helped. I hope you learned something. If you have more questions, let me know. If I'm doing something in a way that's not helpful or I need to elaborate more on certain things, let me know so that I can do that in the future videos. But we will go more into depth. We may not jump into scripting in the next one. We may go over more dialogue, more results, more functions, and more just more of the basic stuff that you can do, so you get more of an idea of what you can do with this dialogue and what you can play with before, you know, we jump into scripting. Because I'm probably not going to make the scripting video anytime soon just yet, because I need to sit down and really plan that one out. This was very not planned. The last one was not planned in any way, shape, or form at all. I just winged it, and I pretty much just winged this one. But scripting is a lot more delicate, and in order to effectively teach y'all about scripting, I really need to plan that out a little better. But you should have plenty to play with now. You should be able to create some dialogue, create some NPCs, create a little bit of quests. You know how to check for items, you know, to check to see how much gold the player has. You can do that with any item, so you can create any item in the game. Like Fargo, right? You go in there and he asks you to fetch his breath mask. Well, all it's doing is it's saying, in the same way that you said item gold 001 is greater than or equal to 100, it's going to say item Fargo's mask greater than or equal to 1. And then you can turn in the quest because you have the item. And if you don't have the item, it'll tell you to come back. You know, you set it to not equal, you know, set it to 0. If it's equal to 0, then you don't have the item. So he's going to tell you, well, come back when you have it. Come on, what are you doing? And then you can create some quests where you got to go get items and stuff like that. But we'll go over like killing people to complete a quest. And I don't know if we'll do an escort quest. We may have to do a scripting video first. We may do that during the scripting because it's not really. We might be able to. I'll see. But it's time for me to go to sleep. So again, I hope you'll learn something. I hope you'll enjoy this. Y'all have a good night.